Okay, so welcome to the second DJ tutorial. In the last DJ tutorial, basically what we did is everybody received a library of songs, all tech house songs, and I showed you how to do the first very simple transition, which really involved beat matching them using the sync button, bringing in the volume of the second track that you want to blend in, and then getting rid of the track that was playing already. So this was the absolute most fundamental basic transition. It encapsulates most of the transitions that you'll do in EDM music. But there's definitely more better sounding ways to do these transitions, more creative ways to do it, different ways that you can like keep energy going, keep like building energy as well through your mixes. And we're going to go over some of that today. So to reiterate, you need Rekordbox on your computer, and you should have like some sort of playlist, either the one that I provided for you, one that you can log into on your Spotify account, which is new in Rekordbox 7, or your own MP3s that you downloaded through SoundCloud or wherever you may download it. So I'm going to very quickly share doing one of those transitions, just to reiterate. And then I'm going to switch over and give a really brief introduction to how to read a waveform. And the waveform is the visual representation of the audio file in the DJ software. And you will see that. So I'm going to go over to the playlist, and I need to share my screen actually. Okay, so I'll make sure everybody can see this on their screen. And can everybody hear me okay as well? I'm kind of yelling as much as I can. So this is Rekordbox here, and what you can see is the library down here in performance mode. The way that you load the track is you can drag it into either the left or the right side, or you can hold shift and click either the left or the right arrow. So that's kind of my favorite way to do that. So I'm going to load up 2 tracks here. And what we did last time is we used this beat sync function. When it's activated, it's highlighted in blue, and you can find it here. So let me just set up the audio. Is that enough volume for everybody? Okay. So the basic transition that we were doing was essentially you want to match the phrases of the music. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail after this, but I'll give you just a very quick example of how I would do this simply. So essentially this track is playing, and if you look at the waveform here, you can tell that a drop is about to come up. So that's this red part over here. And I'm going to start with the volume down on the track that I want to bring in as soon as the drop starts, which is here. So you can see that both of them are playing at the same time. And then I'm bringing in the volume until both of them are playing. So you can hear both those tracks playing. And then I take the volume of the track that's playing and remove it. And then we just have the new track that I brought in playing music. So this is a very standard transition that basically all of EDM music is structured around. There's one element that I want to bring into this that we didn't talk about before, and that's the low end frequencies. So in EDM songs, all the energy and like feeling in the song typically comes from the bass line. And if you play bass lines from two songs at the same time, it becomes really, really muddy and you can't really tell the difference, and it's very overwhelming. And you can kind of hear that. I'll give you an example. So you can kind of hear that that sounds really bad. But if I take out one of the bass lines, it sounds much better. Again, with both of them, doesn't sound very good, but with one of them, it's okay. So the way that I recommend mixing is the timing is still the same, but what you want to do is introduce the new track without any of the bass in it. So I'll give an example of that. So the timing is still the same, but you'll notice over here that I have the low end cut out. So on the DJ controller, that's the low knob, and you want to turn that all the way to the left to get rid of it. And as I bring it in, what you want to do is swap the basses. So you bring in the new track at bass at full volume, and the old track, you kill the bass at the same time. That's a really quick transition that you do, and I'll demonstrate that here. So bringing that in, and then keep your eye on the low frequencies here. On the controller, which I can't show you, I would do this. So that's it. It's a simple bass swap after you've mixed them in. And then you can slowly bring out the volume of the old track. And if I bring in the other bass line, listen. It sounds really muddy. And if I take out the bass line, you get a lot more clarity. So that's basically all I wanted to add on to the mixing section. Beyond that, I just want to talk about looking at songs, the waveforms that come up in particular, so that you can better understand what elements of the song are coming up without having to listen to the whole track. And what this allows you to do is better plan your transitions. Yeah. Yeah. Ready. Okay, you're great. Thank you. Okay, hopefully that volume's better. It's pretty loud. So there's a copy of this PDF in the Discord. It's called DJ Workshop 1, and you can look back on it and refer to it. I'm going to post this on YouTube as well. We'll see how the audio comes out. But what I want to go over is what the song waveform actually looks like when you add your MP3 into the DJ database. So there's a bunch of different information. So you'll see kind of these peaks and valleys in the waveform. And that corresponds to how loud that part of the track is. from left to right, obviously, is the timeline. And then there's different color schemes that are associated with this. I think the most popular is this RGB color scheme. And what that corresponds to is the red color is the bass, the green color is your middles. So the middle frequencies are like your vocals and instrumentals. And then the blue is like your high end, high frequency sounds. So that's like your hi-hats, your claps, and like other like whistling things like whiss kind of stuff. Uh, so if you look at it in the track here, you can use that information to kind of understand all the different elements that are happening at each individual point. So over here, what you'll see is a section. Typically at the beginning of these songs, there's an intro that's used as a DJ tool to help you beat match and blend in the song. What we can see here is a breakdown. So the bass elements are removed. You don't really see a lot of red in that area. You see a buildup. So I can usually identify a buildup by kind of like a rising waveform. And a lot of the times it'll have like blue and green in it, which corresponds to like vocals coming in and risers and other stuff. And the most important thing is figuring out where the drop of the song is. That's usually the easiest thing because it's typically this giant red brick that you see, and that's at maximum volume, and that's really kind of the core of the song. And you'll see this repeat through a lot of EDM songs. So usually it's like an intro, then a build up, first drop, and then a breakdown, build up, and then a second drop, and then some outro stuff that's happening after it. So I want to show you how to actually read this. I think there's another one here. And I will post this on the Discord. Let's see, in this. Aha. So the thing that I want to talk about mainly is phrasing. So this is the elements of the song. So for example, like an introduction, a chorus, a verse, all these things are like considered phrases in the song. And in EDM music, those are broken down into bars and beats. And you're always counting when you're mixing. So what a bar is typically 4 beats. And in the DJ software, you'll see the beginning of a bar typically indicated by this red line lined up to the kick drum. And then you'll see 3 more beats that have white lines on the kick drum. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a bar, and I'm counting in my head. And then typically a phrase is 8 bars together or 32 beats. And that comprises kind of like a full cyclical element of the song. So that will be like a full chorus or a full part of the breakdown, a full part of the buildup. And you can see these things. Yeah, so there's 4 beats in a bar, and then there's 8 bars in a phrase. Yeah. I'm not sure why it's called a phrase. Okay. A phrase is like contained it's like a contained slot in the song dedicated to some collection of elements. So that would be like a full chorus is considered a phrase, or like a verse is considered a phrase. And we measure that in EDM by like the number of bars that are inside that amount of time. Yeah. And the reason that this is important is when you're mixing, what you want is like, for example, with pop music, you don't want to like start the vocals of some song in the middle of the chorus of a previous song because that sounds super awkward and it breaks the energy. What you want to do is line the phrases up, for instance. So like when one chorus ends, it's the start of the verse of a new song, just as if like the next verse was starting in the same song. So phrasing is probably the most important thing in timing. You can screw up a lot of the sound in mixing, but if you get the phrasing right, then like the flow and the energy of the mix will carry you through a lot. So that's the most emphasis that I have. So this goes into it a little bit more. So phrase is a collection of 8 or sometimes 16 bars. And using your phrases is going to allow you to structure your transitions in a smooth way. So if you can see this, here's an example of phrasing. So what you'll see here is there's a breakdown. Like on the top would be the track that is playing. And then you can see one phrase here, which is this beat all the way to where you see this little thing kind of fading out. So in the breakdown phase of this track, you're going to have that playing. And in the second track, what you can do is line up the buildup of that track so that as soon as the breakdown of the first track ends, that's where the drop of the second track comes in. And what that does is it creates a really good energy and flow and timing into the next song. Does anybody have questions about that? Yeah. 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 So I think the main thing is knowing your tracks and listening to them. It makes a really, really huge difference when you understand it and you know when all the elements are happening in the song. One workaround that I use when I'm DJing, when I don't know the song and I'm trying to line it up and it happens that they don't, is I use looping. So essentially you can look at both the waveforms on top of each other. And what I can do is either on the incoming track or the outgoing track, I'll set like a 4-bar loop and then keep that going until I see that they're going to line up, and you can release that loop and then let them come together. Yeah. And we'll get into looping in a little bit. That's a bit more of an advanced thing. I just want to get like some of the basics down first. So anybody else? And yeah, 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 it's a good question. So when I look at the waveform of a song, so here, for instance, there's two main elements in the bass in most songs. So there's a kick drum that's driving it. So that's just like the beat itself. And then there's something else called sub bass, which is like you can imagine a bass guitar that's playing, and that adds tone and length into that bass. So what I found is that like you can have just a kick drum from one song overlaying with like the full bass elements of a second song. But when you have two bass lines overlapping with each other, like two sub basses, then that causes a huge amount of like muddiness and distortion. Yeah, there's just no space for it in the mix. And what's going to happen is you're going to get clipping. Yeah. So you can like play with it a little bit and not do fully on or off. Like you got to use your ears to try and understand that. But most of the time I'm just kind of like doing one or the other. Yeah. And you can kind of tell a lot of the times by the height of the waveform that indicates what the volume is. You can see that in the intro, typically it's just the kick drum, and then it's a kick drum and the bass line. You can see differences in the waveforms, like over here in the drop where you have the whole song coming on, it looks like a fat sausage and the color is really solid. But in the intro, you can really see like a lot of separation in there. So that gives you an indication of like how much bass is actually in the song. So I'll give one quick example of phrasing that is good and phrasing that is bad. So let's see. I'm going to use this song here. And I'll use this song. Maybe, actually, I'm going to use this. So in this song on the right-hand side, what you can see is introduction on this. So this is just the bass drum here, mostly. Not really a whole lot going on. And then you can see in this section, you start to get more of the sub bass, a little bit more of the feel, and that's the real like groove of the song. And then over here, so you can see the red part of the waveform disappears here, and what you're left with is a buildup. So at this buildup, you can see the volumes increasing. And then look at the red spot. And then you could see the groove in the song. So that's kind of what you want to look for. What I'm going to try and do is mix this song on the left into the right-hand side by combining the buildups together. I'll do it in a really bad way first, and then I'll do it in a good way second. So we have this one playing. Yeah. So I'm just going to start this at a random time here. So it didn't really sound great, but the two songs are pretty good. So basically what I actually want to do is I want to time the songs so that the kick drums will line up with each other like this. So when I do that, only one of the bass lines and then the energy is a whole lot better when you line that up. So that's the main lesson that I wanted to get across, is making sure that the timing is right, that the drops are lined up, that the different elements of the song you're taking away and putting them in intentionally at the right time. You don't want to just start the mix anywhere. Does anybody have any questions about it? Awesome. There's one more thing that I wanted to go over, and these are hot cues. So on your DJ controller, I will point to it here. There is this performance pad section. So there's one on each deck on the left and the right-hand sides. And if you click this hot cue button over here, what that allows you to do is set points in the song that you can quickly jump to at the press of your button. And this can be really, really helpful. In Rekordbox, the way that these perform are when you press it, it immediately starts playing it. In other softwares, there's something called gated cue. If you press it, it will move to that cue point, but it won't start playing. It really depends on the hardware and the software you're using. But for Rekordbox, if you press a hot cue, it will by default just start playing. So I can show you that on these songs. So for instance, on this song on the left, I have a hot cue A. So that's the first one if I press it. Nope. So hotkey A, I have a system of where I put my hotkeys, and I do it consistently for all my songs, so I don't have to like look at each of them and try and figure out what they're doing. This has kind of worked for the style that I play, and it's going to be different for everyone. So you just have to kind of figure out what works for you. Typically for me, what I do is my first hotkey A is the very first beat of the song. So I can really quickly just hit that button and I know that the song's going to start playing from the start. Sometimes there's like some dead time or weird introduction that happens before the start of the song, and it's nice to have just one hot cue that you know is going to be the start of an actual like beat in the song. The second one I always do is the second drop in a song. And I use that where to kind of like control energy a lot of the times. So the second drop is usually like a bit higher energy than the first one. So sometimes I'll take the first build up, and when the first drop is about to happen, I'll quickly press B, and then that'll shoot me right over to the second drop. And most of the time that sounds pretty good. The third hot cue I always do is the beginning of the first breakdown. So that would be over here. And I don't know, I just like having that to be able to jump to it really quickly. A lot of the time, like hardware can fail as well. And sometimes like you just have dead time and you press C and you just start a breakdown. And it's kind of a nice way to get in. Some CDJs and DJ controllers only have 3 hot cues. What you'll find on these is you have 8, so there's more flexibility. But I play pretty frequently on like a lot older equipment, and since they only have 3, those are the ones that I really emphasize, and it's always those ones. Um, a lot of them will have 4 or 8. So then for D, I make that the beginning of an outro beat. So the nice thing here is you can quickly jump between like the start of the song, a drop, breakdown, and an outro. So I'll just demonstrate that really quickly. So really easy there. First breakdown, second drop, outro beat. That's what works for me. I use them when I'm DJing to jump around songs and parts of transitions. And I use those mostly to make sure that I don't have like too much going on. Um, and everyone will have their own system. You can set like loops in place and stuff and have vocals and different things that you can play with. A lot of my songs have more than just the 3 or 4, but typically they'll always have that for EDM. Yeah. Yeah. On a CDJ, yeah. Back row. Can you give me an example of what the button looks like? The performance pads, and they're on DJ controllers primarily. There's implementations of them on CDJs, but the thing about those is you need to know what the function that they're actually doing is. So on the DDJ 200s, you're not going to see this row of buttons because the functionality is more limited. Excuse me. But on other DJ controllers, you'll see these options here. So the first one is hot cue. And when you click that hot cue button, then this performance pad section is enabled for hot cues. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And then if you haven't, if there's empty ones, you can scroll to anywhere in the song and click one of the pads that's empty, and it will assign a new hot cue to that section. Yeah. Yeah. So you can do it on the fly. Like when a song's playing, you can just hit it. Yeah. Uh, and it's kind of fun. You get to kind of jump around the song to a bunch of different places. So you can just, and you can like kind of finger drum with it and do other things. It opens up a lot of creative possibilities. But a lot of people use it for cue markers, like where they want to mix a song in or mix it out, because it gives you a good visual indicator on the waveform coming up for an important part of the song. Yeah. Um, so that's all I wanted to go over to today. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I went over? Any questions? Yeah. 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 You can. And you're talking about like pop music with the chorus, yeah. Like house music, yeah. So um there's so much flexibility in it, and it depends on how you want to control the energy, right? So I would say if I'm playing in a club and things are like very chill, my mixes are very long blends between the songs. It's a slow transition from one over to the other. But as like more people come and things get a lot busier and the energy comes up, you have to start making those transitions quicker because like more people, you need more energy and you need more elements kind of in the song going at the same time. So then I'll make quicker transitions. I'll add more elements playing at the same time, and I just burn through songs really quickly when that's happening. Yeah, can do it during the second build up. Sometimes like the first drop happens and then like just 16 bars later, I'm already in the other song. So you just get like two phrases in it. It really depends on the situation and like the music that you're playing and like the crowd and everything. But I encourage you to really play with it and see what that sounds like. So because you can always like the easiest thing to do is to mix the intro into the outro of the other song. That's always going to flow really well. But you can build so much more energy and do more creative things if you're mixing more in the middle of the song. It can get very hairy very quickly when you have too much going on. Like you got to trust your ears and kind of let yourself do it. So something that I do is when I'm mixing in a new song and the current song is in a very like high energy phase, when I bring in the bass line of the new song, I'll use this hot cue D to jump to an outro beat. And what that allows you to do is keep a lot of like the percussion and drum elements of the song that you're mixing out of in it without completely killing it off. And it creates like space in the mix for the new elements of the new song to be like really prominent. Yeah. So that's just kind of how I do it. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully there's controllers for everybody. If you don't have one, then please try and share with your neighbor. And yeah, I'm open to any questions if you want to like approach me after. I can answer anything. Yeah, thank you.